Another math concept that you're going to see on the test is logs. And logs are simply another way of expressing exponents. There's another way of writing them. And the standard way of writing them is log of base b is c equals d. Now, what does that mean? Well, untangle that. What it means is if you take the base b and you take it to the d power, you end up with c. So it's b to the d equals c. Now, there's some basic rules that you need to understand. How do you manipulate these things? But if you realize that your bases always need to be the same or you can't do anything, it's just like when you take exponents that we've talked about in algebra and we're going to apply them using logs. But it's sort of a shorthand way to write this stuff. So rule number 1 is about multiplying logs. So if you have log to the base a x times y, that would be equal to the log of a to the x plus log of a y. Because think about this. When you multiply exponents, don't you just add them? So we're doing exactly the same thing. So if we had x squared times x cubed, we just add the exponent. So we're doing the same thing with multiplication. Now, if we divide logs, it's exactly what we do with exponents. So the log of base a, x over y, would be equal to the log of base a, x, minus the log of base a, y. Just like if you divided x to the 7th by x to the 3rd, you would subtract. 7 minus 3 leaves us 4. Now there's a final rule. Remember we took exponents to powers. So if you see log of base a, x to the n, that means you do the same thing you did with exponents. You multiply the exponent on the outside of the parentheses times the exponent on the inside. So now what we get is n, which is the exponent, times the log base a of x. So the exponent on everything inside a log becomes the multiplier. So now let's take a moment and do a practice question like you're apt to see on the test. So look in your book at question number 3. It says, if k, m, and n are positive integers, and the log of base 4k equals m, and the log base 8 of k equals n, then k could equal one of the following. Well, you could end up doing a lot of substitution here, or there's a neat trick, but you've got to see what they're asking you to do. What they're saying is, if I take 4 to the m power, that's the same answer as if I take 8 to the n power. There's something I told you to do when we were back doing arithmetic. One of the things you need to do is learn to recognize on sight the powers of 2 and cubes. And so let's take a look at how that might come in handy. You could say to yourself, well, when I take 4 to what power m do I get when I take 8 to a different power? Well, isn't 4 cubed something I told you to memorize as 64? And then 8 squared is also 64. So that gives us answer C. That's an easy thing to do. So what I want you to do, if you missed watching that video, is I want you to memorize all the squares through 15. You need to recognize them on sight. And you need to recognize all the cubes through 5. Because it isn't that you could do it on your calculator for sure, but you need to recognize these numbers on sight. So for example, if you see 121 on the test, they're talking about 11 squared. If you see 125 on the test, they're talking about 5 cubed. They don't pick random numbers. More frequently than not, they pick numbers that work so that you don't have to use your calculator, because they're not interested in seeing if you're a calculator expert. They want to know if you can conquer and if you've mastered these math concepts that show up on the test.